This is Stephen Bedard, and I'm back with another episode of Confessions of a Christian Blogger podcast. My intended focus for this podcast is not to share my wisdom as an expert in the field, but to be a fellow traveler. I fully expect that you will learn as much from my mistakes as from the things that I do right. I know that's how I learn. As I've mentioned previously, I've been blogging for a while. I've also had my current YouTube channel since about 2020, after having experimented with YouTube somewhat previously. I've experienced some success in both areas. I noticed over time that my views on both my blog and the YouTube channel were beginning to decrease. Not radically, but there was a steady, if slow, trend downward. At first, I thought it might have been a change in the algorithm. Since I cannot control that, I did what I could control, and that was to increase the rate of content creation. I made sure I was producing and posting content on both channels on a regular basis. Still, the trend was going down. Was it simply that people were less interested in what I had to say? Finally, I took a look at what I was creating and what people were still engaging with. My new content was getting some views, but the majority of the views for both blog posts and videos were content that I had created 2 or 3 years ago. What was going on? I took a closer look. While my newer content were things that I really did want to share, none of it really had the potential to go viral or even to get a lot of eyeballs. It was good, but not great. But the content on my sites that were getting good views was much different. These posts and videos were answering people's questions. They were on topics that people were talking about. At some point, I had lost my way. Basically, I had traded quality for quantity. I had become stagnant after reaching a certain level of success and was really just coasting. I did not notice it because I was producing just as much, if not more content than before. And it was okay filler content. But I lacked the tentpole content that I needed to attract an audience. Not every blog post or video has to knock it out of the park. It's fine to have content that is a slow burn, that just keeps getting a few views, but is steady over time. But ultimately, some thought has to be put in how to really get people's interest. So that's what I did. How did I do this? Part of it was paying attention to social media and watching what people were talking about. There's part of me that's hesitant to jump on a bandwagon, and yet getting on board with where people are at makes a difference. For example, Canadian Christian apologist Wesley Huff made a big splash appearing on the Joe Rogan show. I knew people were interested in this, not just because of social media, but because an interview I did with Wes a number of years back suddenly started getting a lot of views. So I decided to write a blog post on Wes's appearance on Joe Rogan, and it got a lot of attention. I've even had someone ask to quote my blog post for a magazine article. I recognized that's what people were interested in, and so I went for it. I don't necessarily create content on every event that becomes a big thing, but I look for the overlap of what I'm interested in and what's relevant for my audience. Another interesting thing has happened that re-energized my content creation. I've recently been getting a lot of emails by people with questions related to Christian apologetics. This is the area of my blog that generally gets the most views. I respond to these emails with not just another email, but with a video or blog post. I've begun to see a return to the numbers that I used to get because instead of just creating content I'm interested in, I'm taking my audience more into account. These might only be 1 or 2 pieces of everything I create during the week, but they're what bring people in to discover the other content that I have. So I would want to leave you with 2 lessons that I've learned. One is not to grow content with past success, even if people are still seeking out that content that you wrote 3 years ago. Seek to create new content not just in quantity, but in quality. The second lesson is to do the work of finding out what people want to hear about. This can be through social media or from communication with your audience. What are the hot topics, and how can you tap into that interest to create relevant content? These are lessons that I'm still working on. There are times that I get to the end of the week and I've blogged most days, but then realize that none of what I created is really bringing in the audience I'm seeking. This is an ongoing discipline that we need to keep working on. That's what I wanted to share with you this time. My homework for you is to sit down and come up with one new piece of content that connects with what people are talking about right now. Make it relevant with a capital R. Make that connection with your audience and see what happens. Thanks for listening to the Confessions of a Christian Blogger podcast. Please make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Thank you, and God bless.